You know, people always hate on me for being a pessimistic Philadelphia fan. They should all jump on board. You guys should jump on board. Maybe you're an Atlanta Falcons fan or something, no Super Bowls. Maybe you're a Detroit Lions fan. Things were going well up until last week. Take my advice on one thing after this Phillies loss last night. Go into every series, go into every game like you're going to lose, okay? It's okay. You're being realistic. Because then when you do lose, it doesn't matter. You're like, yeah, saw that one coming. But when you win, it feels fantastic. You go, okay, maybe things are turning around, but next week I'm still going to be negative. It's an evolutionary process here in the Philadelphia area. Over time, you just become callous to the process. You say, you know what? I don't have any expectations. That's why I hate some of these Philly fans, because they do have expectations. And they always get crushed right back down to earth and they go, man, why did I get excited? Never get excited. Be the pessimist. It's the smart way to go, because when you do win, it's that much better. And when you lose, it's not quite that bad. Anyway, I'm Dave Locker with Odd. I just wanted to throw that out there. A little food for thought for you guys coming into this week who may be reeling after that Lions loss. Don't worry. We like them this week and we'll get to it. Or some other spots where your team just, maybe you're a Buffalo Bills fan. Dear Lord, that was rough last week, was it not? We got picks. We got some good ones. We're going to hit picks for every single game. There's about 5 that I really like, and that's the way it should be each week. We're never going to try and hit all of them, but I'll give you a pick from everything, whether it's a lean, whether it's something we love, or we're passing, but I'll give you, a slight, that's okay. Anyway, let's dive into this. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below. Guys, let me know your favorite picks for this week. Where are you headed? What's your number one overall spot to hit on and get good money down on for week 8? No bye weeks, 16 games. Going to be a fun one. And of course, follow me at Loughy_D on Twitter. Props aren't out yet. I'm recording this on Wednesday, but when they drop, I'll be throwing them out there. LOUGHY_D. All right, let's get into it. Oh, and one last thing. Skip to the picks if you're not in these states, but if you're in Colorado, Virginia, Ohio, New Jersey, Iowa, or Kentucky, Bet365 is still throwing money at you. Links in the description and in chat. You deposit 10, you bet 5, you've got 150. If you're in Kentucky, you deposit 10, bet $1, and get $365. It's as easy as that. 2 minutes to sign up. You click the link, you sit there, sign up. Simple, right? 2 minutes. $150 in 2 minutes, $75 a minute if you want to think of it that way. $365 in Kentucky. Just deposit $10, bet only 5 or 1, depending on where you are. Those 6 states, that Kentucky one's going away soon. Think of it this way. You want to get the best odds everywhere, every single time. You never want to lose to the hook. You never want to bet a touchdown prop at plus 300. You could have got it at plus 600, right? All of that stuff. And you want to get free money. Bet365 is giving it to you. Colorado, New Jersey, Virginia, Ohio, Iowa, and Kentucky's the big one. Bet 5 in the 150, bet 1 in the 365. Link down there in the description of the pinned comment. Let's go. All right, Thursday night football. Bills 8.5-point favorites against the Bucs, 42-point total here. What is there to say about the Bills? I mean, this team consistently finds ways to shoot themselves in the foot, right? They really do. And Mac Jones had his best performance of the season. The funny thing is, though, looking back on it, I guess it's not all that shocking. It's still Bill Belichick. It's a home game for New England. It's a divisional spot, but still losing outright if you're the Bills is brutal. What are they, 4-3 now on the year? I think they come in and win this game against the Bucs. Let's not get it twisted. Desmond Ridder was looking for ways to lose that game against the Bucs last week. He did everything in his power to lose that football game, okay? Like fumbling at the goal line, multiple fumbles inside the red zone, tons of turnovers. Buccaneers at home, coming off a bad home loss to Detroit, had every advantage and opportunity in the world to win that game, and they still found a way to squander the opportunity. So here's how I want to play this, okay? I'm not comfortable laying 8.5 on the Bills right now, but I think at home in Orchard Park, in a must-win game against the Bucs team that, let's be honest, Baker Mayfield is who we thought he was, regardless of whether you have Evans and Godwin. But the injuries to this Bills defense has me a little skittish. If we're trying to lay 8.5 points, win by 9, 6-point teaser piece. All right. Now, if you want to jump forward to later in the video to find the 2 other teaser pieces I have here, because it is later in the video, some 4 o'clock games and a Monday night game, go for it. But the way I want to play this is I want to get the Bills inside of a field goal, and you can do that at minus 8.5. That's the way. I'm not laying 9 on them. But, and you know what? Maybe the smart play is to just take the Bucs at plus 8.5. but that offense is so bad right now. And with that in mind, I don't like to do teasers all that often. I think this week aligns for us very nicely. There's like 3 or 4 teams that we can look at, all favorites, by the way, that we can look at, get inside a field goal for 6 or 7 point teaser pieces. So those other picks later in the video, 6-point teaser, they're going to be a big piece, the Buffalo Bills. Eagles are 6.5 point favorites against the Commanders, 43.5 point total. You know, I feel like this is going to be very chalky. There's two chalky, probably public spots here in this video that I'm going to get to. And it's I say this with regret, because you want to buy low when teams are at their lowest, right? And you want to, you guys know the buy low, sell high, right? You know, instead of buying at the top and selling at the bottom, whatever it is, crypto, stock, all of that. It's the same thing that applies with betting. All right. And in a spot like this, Eagles are pretty high up after that win on Sunday Night Football against the Dolphins. Commanders are as low as it gets. And they're just begging us to take the Eagles at -6.5. You know what I mean? If this were 7, sure, it's a little bit different, but -6.5, they're begging us to do it. And you know what? Fade me on this one if you feel that everything I'm saying is just contradictory, because I get it. I totally get it. But here's where I'll land on this. I'll come full circle for you guys. I can't bet the Commanders right now. They are at home. It's a divisional game. Earlier this season, these two teams played against each other, and it took an overtime period for the Eagles to win on a field goal. But Sam Howell, I mentioned this last week, this guy is on pace for almost 100 sacks. Their defense cannot stop the long ball. There were 5 different New York Giants receivers with Tyrod Taylor under center that had 20-plus yard receptions last week. They can't stop the big plays on defense. Sam Howell is a sack machine, and in the worst type of way. So if you want to do this and take the 6.5 on the Commanders, really the only reason you're doing it is because you're saying it's a divisional game and this line just looks a little bit off. And I would understand where you're coming from there. Me, I got to go Eagles -6.5, as gross as it feels. I think Hurts with that knee will be fine. Maybe a little bit limited as far as rushing goes, but they have too many weapons, too many deep threats. Eagles 6.5. We'll talk next week if it comes back and bites me, and I'll tell myself I told you so. Patriots and the Dolphins. All right, so back-to-back chalky spots. These are really the only 2 chalky kind of public, I think, type spots that we're going to get to this week. I mentioned it on a radio show. I jumped on with my buddy Adam Kaufman the other day, you know, Boston-based radio show, and we have some fun talking about those Patriots. He did, as a matter of fact. Me, not so much. But this week, he asked the question. He's like, so what are you doing? Dolphins, Patriots? You know, this was at 12. It moved to 9.5. And this was Sunday night or Monday. I'm like, wait, you're telling me this moved through 10 already? So I look, it's 9.5 now. You know what? And there's the same thing I told him. I'll take my lumps. I already bet this game. I'll take my lumps if the Dolphins end up not covering here. But I'm not like, this is a buy low spot on the Dolphins and a sell high on the Patriots if I've ever seen one. I know it's Belichick. I know it's a divisional spot, but Tua Tagovailoa hasn't lost to the Patriots. They still don't have talent. Mac Jones still isn't good. They still lost top defenders in their secondary, which is a serious issue going up against this Miami team. Jalen Waddle seems like he's going to play despite missing time last week with that back injury. It's moved through 10 points, guys. Get 9.5. We've laid 13.5 on the Patriots this year. We've laid, Jacob, what was the other one? Giants and Carolina were both, what, like 10 and then 13 or something, or 4, yeah, something crazy. And they covered in both of them. They're really good at home. I'm laying the 9.5 on the Dolphins. All right, let's get away from the chalky spots. Even though I do like the Dolphins, you move through 10, coming off a 14-point loss to the Eagles. Got to go there. Jets and Giants. Give me Giants +3. Give me under 36.5 here. You know, the funny thing about under 36.5 is crazy, right? But it's a Zach Wilson-led offense and either a Tyrod Taylor or Daniel Jones. Now, honestly, Tyrod Taylor has actually looked better for this New York Giants team than Daniel Jones has, right? Making far less mistakes, and it's made a difference. But even last week, what was the score of that game? 14-7 or something like that? These are not these are not explosive offenses. And, with the New York Jets, you'd be like, yeah, but they're coming off, 14-7. They're coming off a bye week, this and that. They're coming off a bye. They shut down the Eagles the week before that. And I can make plenty of arguments to say, well, number one, DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner were out. By the way, they are still in concussion protocol, so keep an eye on that. But so maybe that wouldn't lend itself to the under, but it would. But if they are out again, it definitely helps the Giants +3 here. Ultimately, though, Devontae Smith dropped a million passes, huge passes, would-be touchdowns. A.J. Brown pulled up short on what would have been a touchdown. Dallas Goedert dropped one that went into the defender's hands for an interception. Kenny Gainwell dropped a ball. So what I'm saying is Jets defense wasn't bad. They are very good, but also they weren't as good as they looked last week. They're very good, but the Eagles defense, 2 weeks ago, could have put up some serious numbers had they not just had the drops all game. And the New York Giants, their defense isn't terrible. It's really not. It's the offense and the inability to protect the quarterback. That's really why, unless you have a bunch of defensive touchdowns in this game, I do like the under. But getting 3 points at home against Zach Wilson, that's what it comes down to for me. You're getting 3 points against a Zach Wilson-led offense. Breece Hall, sweet. Have to like it. He's good. Garrett Wilson, very good. But again, Zach Wilson-led offense. On the road, field goal favorites. Give me the other side. Vikings and the Packers. All right, so this one, this is another game where I think people are going to be on the Vikings after that game that we saw against San Francisco. Now, keep in mind, there were some crazy plays in that game. Jordan Addison with that, I thought that was intercepted. I honestly thought that ball was intercepted, and then he goes and runs for 60 yards or whatever it was for a touchdown. Credit to Kirk Cousins. Finally broke out of the brutal, primetime woes. I know in Minnesota in primetime, he hasn't been as bad as people make him out to be, but he still hasn't been great. And Brock Purdy didn't look all that good either. Get a little bit of pressure on that guy. You don't have Deebo Samuel or Trent Williams, not necessarily his fault at all, but he starts to make some mistakes. Got picked off a couple times in that one. Vikings are 1.5-point favorites. It's probably going to be funny for you guys to hear me say this because I've been betting against Jordan Love. We were on the Broncos last week at +1. They won that game. What was it, 19-17? Their defense looks better. We'll talk about that, and it's going to be super gross when we do in that Denver KC game. But you know what? If the Packers are getting 1.5 points at home at Lambeau against this Vikings team in a divisional spot, even though I haven't liked Jordan Love and they've played terribly, I think I got to go Packers here. I still don't buy into the Vikings. All right. I still don't. I think this ends up being a relatively ugly, low-scoring game. And it's just kind of one of those spots where you have to zoom out, take a 30,000-foot view and go, you know what? Everybody's going to be on the Vikings after beating what was largely considered the best team in the league in the San Francisco Giants. And they did it in primetime football on Monday night. Packers +1.5 here at home. For the first time in a long time, I'm going to back a Jordan Love-led offense, and it doesn't feel great. Rams are 6.5-point dogs against the Cowboys, 45-point total. I'll tell you what, this is a game, not betting this, not touching this game. It would be Rams +6.5 or pass. If you can get them at 7, that would obviously be hugely helpful. Maybe I'd sprinkle there. I don't like this spot. Mike McCarthy's offense has not looked good. Even that win against the Chargers, it was uninspiring. It's just Brandon Staley and the Chargers constantly find ways to lose football games. So are we really surprised? And it's not like they have home field advantage in LA anyway. Yeah, Rams +6.5 or pass. They don't have a run game right now. Kyron Williams was the engine there. He's out. Can they protect Matthew Stafford in this spot against a good pass rush? We talk about that stuff all the time and how impactful it is on games. That could be difficult. But again, the Cowboys consistently find ways to keep games close when they're facing semi-decent football teams. 6.5, I guess, seems right, but I don't want to lay 6.5 on the Cowboys either. Rams 6.5 or pass, but I don't want much to do with this game at all. All right, let's talk about the Jags and the Steelers. Guys, at this point with the Steelers we've seen it move to 3 in some spots. Kind of was hoping it would. Mike Tomlin as a home dog, or a dog in general at this point. We were on the wrong side of this game last time. I think you just have to take the home dog and Mike Tomlin, or not bet it at all at this point. Pittsburgh +3. The Jags look good. Trevor Lawrence last week, he might be, he's injured. He's a real legitimate game time call. Who knows how he's going to look? You see him in the first quarter scrambling and picking up first downs with his legs. That shit is annoying. But here we are. He was fine. Calvin Ridley's been an afterthought, but Travis Etienne's been good. I will say, though, this Pittsburgh defense, they might not be as stellar as they've been in the past. They're still pretty good, though. And if you make mistakes, they are absolutely going to capitalize on it at home. Don't look now, but the Steelers on the season are 4-2. They're 4-2 on the year. They beat the Rams as dogs. They beat the Ravens as dogs. They lost to Houston. They beat the Raiders. They beat the Cleveland Browns as dogs. They got smoked in week 1 to San Francisco. They find ways to win. Deontay Johnson is back. Their ground game isn't good, but with Johnson and Pickens in there, Pickett doesn't need to be great. He just needs to not be terrible. Steelers +3. I think we just have to keep going Mike Tomlin home dog until that comes to an abrupt end. But until then, Mike Tomlin home dog against the Jags, who have been winning and looking great. This might be the spot to jump off the Jags and onto the Steelers. Let's talk about Texans and the Panthers. I don't love this. The Panthers are coming off a bye, but they're just a bad team. They're a really bad team. Bryce Young doesn't look like he's equipped to play in the National Football League. Adam Thielen's been a revelation, though. A revelation. If you guys play DFS or best ball or fantasy, you know that you've gotten massive steals on this guy. And up until this point, he's basically been a league winner for you, regardless of what format you're playing. But they stink. I said when Miles Sanders came over that they're making a huge mistake giving this guy a big contract. If you're not running behind that Eagles offensive line, a guy like Miles Sanders, he's a yards before contact, not a yards after contact guy. That doesn't work when you're not running behind the best O-line in the league. The offense doesn't function. And you know what? The Texans are the most shocking team, the most surprising team. You could say the Rams, but I would say the Texans are the most surprising and shocking team in the NFL this year. From C.J. Stroud to this defense that has played extraordinarily well to being well coached with DeMeco Ryans. They're on the road, but they're laying 3 points. If you're betting this game, I think you have to lay the 3 on the Texans and assume that, you know what? We're not saying they're Super Bowl contenders. Might not even be in the playoffs, but they're not a joke anymore. And with that in mind, Texans -3. All right. Falcons -3 against the Titans. I'm going to go Mike Vrabel as the home dog here. No, we do not know if it's going to be Will Levis or Malik Willis. That's not great because Ryan Tannehill dealing with a high ankle. Yeah, it's bad, okay? I get that, guys. It's bad. It's ugly. And you're probably thinking, come on, you have to take Atlanta here. Look at this team, I don't know, though, because Desmond Ridder just constantly looks for ways to lose. They lost to Washington by 8. They should have beat them by 12. They had 400-plus total yards of offense. They beat Tampa Bay by 3, but that game never should have been competitive. They should have scored 30 points. The offense hasn't looked terrible, and Tennessee is a pass funnel defense, which means you're going to have to lean on Ridder again and hope that he doesn't make mistakes. But I will say, Tennessee with Mike Vrabel at home as a 3-point dog, given that we're not going to see Ryan Tannehill, seems like a spot that nobody would want to be on, but I think it might be actually the spot to be on. Is this my favorite play from this week? No, absolutely not. It sucks. So do Will Levis and Malik Willis. Those are not guys that you want to bank on to win football games. But I think this could be an ugly, grinded out type of performance, and probably go Titans +3 here. They got Byard. They got Kevin Byard out of there, traded him to the Eagles. Howie Roseman just keeps wheeling and dealing and making plays. But I don't think this signifies just giving up. I don't think this team's just going to get steamrolled in a spot like this at home. Titans +3 until Desmond Ridder can prove that he can, get some separation in these games and start pulling away and not make those crucial, horrible mistakes. We'll go with the other side with the home team, coached by Mike Vrabel. All right, so let's go Saints and Colts. I'm going to keep this one very quick for you guys. I don't like this game. I think I've said it since week 1, and I'll say it again this week. Dennis Allen, bottom 3 coach in the league. Derek Carr. How bad does that look? Derek Carr has been terrible. Chris Olave is going to be like top 5 in targets this year and bottom 50 in receptions. Can't get him the ball. Derek Carr is attempting more deep balls a higher percentage of deep balls than any quarterback in the league, and he can't connect on any of them. That's why Alvin Kamara is getting 14 targets a game. But then the Colts with Gardner Minshew, this would probably be a Saints or pass just because I do believe in that Saints defense. But I want nothing to do with this game. Give me Saints or pass because the video is titled picks for every game. But Saints or pass, stay away from this one. Unless you have a good read. If you do, let me know in the comments or on Twitter. I'm all ears. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Browns and Seahawks. Man, 16 games this week. No bye weeks, week 8 and 12. It's a lot. But it gives us plenty to choose from. And, in this Browns and Seahawks game, I do like the under. PJ Walker's starting. We know that. PJ Walker is starting. While I was actually making this, it's Wednesday, we got that news and the line moved from 3 to 3.5. Let me see if it's moved any bit further than it has already. Let me see if it's moved even further. It's possible. I don't think so because I would assume that most people thought that Deshaun Watson would be out anyway. Yeah, 3.5 here. But there's some good spots, like 3.5 minus 108 on DraftKings. Bet 365 is another one. By the way, like I said earlier in the video, guys, Colorado, New Jersey, Virginia, Ohio, Iowa, and Kentucky. It's bet $5 and get $150. In Kentucky, it's bet 1 and get 365. That's dropping down to 150 very soon in Kentucky. So link down there in the description and in the comment. If you still want to dive in, get some free money and make sure you're always getting the best odds. Take free money when it throws itself at you. And this is one way to do it because you're going to find some like minus 105s here, some minus 106s. Again, seems negligible, but there's other spots where there's like 3s and 3.5s out there. That's not negligible in games like this because if they lose by 3 and you got them at +3, you're pushing. You void the bet. You get them at 3.5, you win the bet. Every single time. It's common sense. You get on as many books as possible and make sure to find the best odds. That's one spot to do here because there's still some 3s out there. I like the under though. I don't believe for a moment that this Cleveland defense is as bad as they looked. It was such a weird fluky game last week in the Dome against Indianapolis. Now you're in Seattle. Definitely not nearly as good of conditions. Not saying this is like a December game or anything like that, but still 48 degrees, a little bit of wind, PJ Walker. Also, this offense right now, with Geno Smith, there's some concerns. We'll see about DK Metcalf. I'm not sure how much it matters. Myles Garrett is destroying teams. He is blowing games up. And in a spot like this, I think he can absolutely blow up this offensive line for Seattle. Under 39.5. Also, like I said, I like the under more here because I think this could be a really low scoring game. But if it's the under, no problem taking Cleveland at +3.5. Lean on the defense. +3.5, you're getting it outside of a field goal. Not a terrible spot whatsoever. Chiefs and the Broncos. Okay. This is gross. Broncos +8 at home. We were on Broncos +11 in Kansas City last game. Hopefully you got it at +11 because if you did, it pushed and you didn't lose. If you got it at +10.5, you lost. If you got the Chiefs at -10.5, that's great though. But it would have pushed if you hit it at +11 when we did the video. The only issue here is that the Denver Broncos are not a good football team. But at the same time, I must say, let me fix this real quick. I must say that I don't believe the defense is nearly as bad as they looked earlier in the year. That 70-point game that they gave up to Miami. I know that they shipped a couple of guys off and kind of fire sailed a few pieces. I know Jackson is suspended for that hit near the sidelines. But still, I don't think this defense is as bad as they looked. I said this 2 weeks ago. They came in and they allowed 19 points to the Chiefs in Kansas City. They allowed 17 points to Jordan Love and the Packers. And one of those touchdowns was a deflection into the hands of who is it? Who's the rookie? Jaden Reed, right? Yeah, I think it was Jaden Reed. So really, they looked a lot better. And they talked about it being communication issues that got cleared up. And it brought me back to the Cleveland defense last year where you're going, how do they have this talent? And they're getting gutted. And then Cleveland figured out some of those communication errors and the defense looked a lot better. Look, I'm not saying you come out here and you shut down Patrick Mahomes. No. And the Chiefs defense is fantastic. Might be the best defense in the league right now, which is why under 46 looks real good to me. First of all, under 46, if the Broncos defense can come out at home, mile high in the altitude, and just keep things neutral enough to where they don't get blown out. And I think it's very possible, even though they haven't beat Kansas City in 47 years. I'm exaggerating, of course. I still think there's a spot where you can hit the under at 46, and it's disgusting, but a huge home dog like this in a divisional spot, Broncos +8. Ravens are 8-point favorites against the Cardinals, 44-point total. Do you know Lamar's 16-1 in his career against NFC teams? That's crazy. Crazy. I saw someone talking about it the other day. I forget who it was, but they had put forth the idea that maybe it's just because his style of play, these AFC teams that see him far more frequently are able to, game plan for that and are able to understand it. Who knows? 16-1 against NFC teams. Crazy. I don't know what to say about it. Really expect them to win this game, but 8-point favorites on the road, as bad as the Cardinals are, and we saw it last week, this is not a good football team. Although they limited the Seahawks to not very many points whatsoever, even without Metcalf. That was bad. This is one of the teaser pieces I was talking about. The Ravens get you down at -6, or a 6-point teaser to -2. Win by a field goal against the Cardinals, that gets you to -2. It gets the Bills in the 6-point teaser to -2.5. And then there's one coming up for Monday Night Football. You may already have an idea what that's going to be. I like the Ravens to win here. I don't want to lay the 8, but I like the Ravens to win here, especially given Lamar's success straight up against NFC teams through his career, 16-1. That's too crazy for me to not want some piece of this. And I think that teaser piece is where it's going to be. Actually, Jacob threw it up on the screen. We'll get to the Lions in a minute, though. All right, Bengals +5.5 against the 49ers, 45-point total. Weird, right? First of all, Joe Burrow is coming off of a bye. So does that help him? Probably. I would say it should. It certainly should help him. And he's coming off of a bye. It really looked like he had been getting better, like he had been improving. And then against Seattle, you're like, maybe not. Against Arizona, he crushed. Against Seattle, you go back to, that maybe he's not right. Seattle's defense has also markedly improved themselves from where they were earlier in the season. But then you've got the question mark. This is probably a game that I wait to bet. I want to see what's going on with some of these players for San Francisco, right? I want to see what's going on with Deebo Samuel. Trent Williams is another guy that was down. That is a huge injury. And we saw how it impacted Brock Purdy. They gave him real problems. And late in that game, he was turning the ball over, which is not something we've become accustomed to seeing with Brock Purdy since he took over last season after the Jimmy Garoppolo injury. All of that stuff plays a pretty significant role for me. I think San Francisco still wins this game, but I think they still win this game. But I think that Joe Burrow is in a position where this game stays competitive enough for where they can cover the 5.5. It's a it's a huge game. Yeah, I'm going Bengals +5.5 here. I think I have to go Bengals +5.5 on the road. Their defenses look solid. Brock Purdy has looked very, very human over the last 2 weeks. There's no doubt about that. Against the Cleveland Browns, he's looked human. He's looked human against Minnesota in primetime, +5.5 on the Bengals. But I'd like to wait just to see how some of this injury news shapes up throughout the week, and then we can pick our spots. The Bears and the Chargers. You guys know I hate betting the Chargers as big favorites. I absolutely hate it. But maybe we go. This is probably a fade. Does anyone really want to bet this game right now? I mean, maybe you want to bet the Bears and Tyson Bagent after that nice win against the Raiders, but the Raiders are terrible. I don't want to bet the Bears, and I don't want to bet the Chargers. Gun to the head, I'd go Chargers -8.5, because at some point they have to get a convincing win. But if that's my logic, I just hate this game on all fronts. I don't trust the Chargers. I don't trust Brandon Staley as far as I can throw him. I don't trust Tyson Bagent. I don't trust at all the Chicago Bears. And this is obviously assuming that we don't see Justin Fields again. Maybe we do, but I don't even know how much of a difference that makes at this point. I really don't. I don't want to touch this game. Like I said, gun to the head, Chargers -8.5. We got 16 games though, and like I already mentioned, there's a few spots we really like. Last one, Raiders and Lions. So I want to include them in this teaser because in the 6.3 team teaser, you can get them down to -2, which gives you -2 on the Lions. It gives you -2.5 on the Bills. And we know, guys, oftentimes something comes out of nowhere and one of these teams gets shit on and you go, I knew it was going to happen. But I do like these spots. And then the Ravens, get them down to -2 as well. That's how I'd want to play it. But I will say I still like the Lions -8. Two things to consider here. One, coming off a really embarrassing loss. Not even embarrassing. Why? I shouldn't say embarrassing. It's a loss. It's a bad loss. Bad losses happen. Lions are a very good football team. We were on the Ravens last week. We like them quite a bit. All the stars aligned. But now you've got Jared Goff back in a dome, Monday Night Football. And you could say it's Monday Night Football for the Raiders too. Yeah, but I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to play. And if he does, there's no way he's at 100% with this injury he's dealing with. Back in a dome, coming off a bad loss, far more talented quarterback, far better defense. You're not facing a talented Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. If you're betting this game straight and not in a teaser piece or anything, I'd go Lions -8 here and actually feel pretty good about it. We'll hit the Monday Night Football video with some props on this as well, and we'll revisit this on Monday morning. We'll do the same for Thursday Night Football on Thursday morning. But that's what we've got, 16 up, 16 down. Appreciate you guys hanging. Try and keep this video short, but it's tough with 16 games. Anyway, hit me up on Twitter at Loughy_D, LOUGHY_D. You want to go some back and forth here, let me know where you're at in the comments and everywhere else, and we'll catch you guys back here for the next one. Peace.